Hello tonight from Sherlock to Shakespeare. Andrew Scott, best known for his role as Moriarty in the TV show, talks about playing Hamlet, which has just transferred from the Almeida Theatre in London to the West End. Following in the footsteps of his Sherlock co-star Benedict Cumberbatch, the Irish actor is now making the most famous role in world theatre his own. It's a very contemporary Hamlet with music, video screens and the edginess of a Scandi noir TV series. The genesis of this production was in a coffee shop in North London, where Andrew Scott met weekly with the young stage director Robert Icke, famous for his staging of 1984 and reworkings of classics such as The Yoris Dyer, Mary Stuart and Uncle Vanya. They were determined to work together and settled on making a Hamlet that would appeal to the Netflix generation. I went backstage earlier today to meet both of them, and I started by asking Andrew about what drives his Hamlet.
What drives him? I suppose love is the thing that drives him. It's certainly at the heart of this play. I think he loves practically everybody in the play. That's the thing that drives him.
I thought that grief was really at the centre of this production, that Hamlet clearly misses his father, can't deal with that loss, can't deal with the fact that his mum and the rest of the court have moved on so quickly, the fact that they're partying just after his dad's funeral. I mean, he's dealing with unresolved grief.
Yes, I think that's really true, and I think that's where a lot of our unhappiness and mental health issues come, which I think is again what the play is about. And so a lot of the problems arise, I think, where people are saying, come on, move on, get over it. And this is the way that you're supposed to be. But again, the grief to me is a mirror to how much he loved his father and actually how much he loves his mother, and indeed, which I think sometimes doesn't get expressed in the play, how much he may love his uncle, because we see his uncle at the start of the play being totally disapproving of him. But I think it's more interesting to think, what was he like? What was his relationship with his uncle like before he married his mum? 'Tis an unweeded garden grown to seed, things rank and gross in nature possess it merely, that it should come to this, but 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion, to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. Heaven and earth must I remember, why she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet within a month, let me not think on't. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears. Why, she, oh God, a beast that once discourse of reason would have mourned longer. Married with my uncle, my father's brother.
Robert, you have a reputation for taking on classics and shining a new light on them. The setting is very contemporary, very stark, sort of sleek, a bit Scandi, with big TV screens playing news footage. It reminded me a little bit of sort of the Danish political drama Borgen in parts. I mean, where is your Elsinore?
It's in Elsinore. I mean, we've taken the radical step of setting it in Denmark because it's set in Denmark. We've tried to make it feel moneyed. We've tried to make it feel the combination of new and old that you find in nearly all royal buildings or kind of political buildings. And you look at something like the House of the Parliament or the White House, and it's old shells and old walls combined with very new technologies and screens and security locks. And it feels like that's the world in which these people now live.
So, Andrew, what about approaching those really, really famous lines, to be or not to be? I mean, was that one of the biggest challenges for you?
All plays have a certain rhythm to them, but I think we've become as a society slightly obsessed with the rhythm and the Shakespeareaness of how you present Shakespeare. And he says in the play, don't declaim it, speak it like the way we speak. He never mentions verse speaking, and so what the challenge is in the play is to sort of rid ourselves of that pressure of how we're supposed to speak Shakespeare. So when you're coming out and saying to be or not to be, you're talking, what you have to think about is, what is he saying? And if you can keep on to what is actually being said in the play rather than what theatre history has told us how that line should be pronounced, if you focus on the right things, then the play becomes more clear, I think.
Yes, because when you said it, I really felt you were sort of saying, should I top myself? Can I bear to go on?
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, I think that's what it means. Yeah.
I imagine one of the biggest decisions you have to make when you're a director doing Hamlet is, how do you show the ghost? And you do it in a really interesting way, using CCTV images. So we see the security guards at the castle spotting a shadowy figure on their screens who looks like the king.
One of the things about all plays when they're first performed, and when you see a really great new play, is that it's surprising because you don't know what's going to happen. And one of the challenges of doing classics is how you can restore an element of genuine surprise and therefore of danger. And I totally endorse what Andrew said about love being central to the way the play works, and that's the thing you want the audience to feel. But if you look from a plot point of view, it's all about surprise and tension and reveal and narrative. I remember thinking quite a lot about the guy who broke into the Queen's bedroom that time, climbed the walls at Buckingham Palace, and what it must have been like for those guards, and whether those guards who sit at the gate of Buckingham Palace had ever seen a ghost. And that's what we talked about in the rehearsal room. And so it seemed a very natural progression then to use the available technology to kind of stage that. And all of our interactions with ghosts now are via TVs. It's almost haunted and weird, creepy CCTV footage and people popping up blurrily in the back of photographs and things. That seems to be our language through which we talk about that sort of thing. And the other thing, of course, it lets us do is it gives us access to David Rintoul who plays Hamlet's father, and it allows us to stage the scene as a scene between a dad and a son. And the way we've attacked that through the cameras allows us to bring them into the same room without having to do loads of wind sound effects or battlements or any of the things that would make that feel alienating or sort of epic, when what you want is domestic emotion.
And there's this very touching moment, Andrew, you try and reach out and touch him. That sort of thing.
I think that's what you'd want to do if you miss the hugging.
Robert, I know you've spoken about going to see Richard III with Kenneth Branagh as a 14-year-old, and that inspired you to take up writing and directing. What effect do you hope your Hamlet will have on a teenager in the audience?
Well, we've spoken a lot about this. Andrew and I, it's so important to us that the 15-year-old versions of ours would be excited. I think it's a kind of one-shot kill now, because theatre is so expensive that it's our responsibility to make it as exciting as Netflix or the Xbox, so that if there is somebody who's never been to see this play, or indeed a Shakespeare play, or maybe any play before, and they don't have to want to work in the industry or anything, but I just want them to leave thinking, that was exciting, and I might like to do that again. I might like to go back and see something else. So
every night, 300 tickets are released for people under 30. 100 of them only cost £15. Andrew, how important is it for you that should happen in the West End?
It was absolutely a condition of doing the transfer for both of us. And I am so passionate about it. I think it's disgusting, the pricing of theatre tickets in the country. We have to do something about it. However much we talk in the theatre about bringing young people in, you can't pay 75 or 80, 90 pounds for a ticket.
And it makes me really angry, because theatre has a big problem with young audiences, and Andrew and I are of a mind about this. The industry's going to have to address it and sort it out to make sure that, because otherwise we're dead. In 50, 60 years there will be no audience.
Robert Icke and Andrew Scott, and Hamlet's on at the Harold Pinter Theatre in the West End until the 2nd of September, and those 300 cheap tickets are released every day for people under 30.